Hello, hello, everybody. I am Luxander. This is the Transatlantic Call-In Show where you can call in and chit-chat with two trans people. And of course, we're the experts on all these things. I am here with Arden. How are you, Arden?
Hey, doing good. What's up?
Not much. Just ready for a good show. We have open lines right now. So if anybody wants to call in, the number is in the chat. It's 720-619-2288. You can call in, talk to our screener, let them know what you want to talk to us about, and we are ready. We are ready to have some conversations. So, yeah, why don't we look at last week's poll and see what that was about? I don't remember what it was. Oh, yeah, okay. So we had this question because of some law in California that passed. Do you think forcing teachers to out trans kids to their parents could pose more harm to the students? And unsurprisingly, for our audience here, we had 93% saying yes, it would cause more harm. What thoughts do you have, Arden?
When I was browsing the comments, pretty much everyone understood exactly the problem with forcing teachers to out their trans kids, and the only people who said no that I saw in the comments were basically like, wow, this is a loaded poll question. You can tell you guys have an ideological angle. And it was like, yeah, that is literally true of every poll we've ever done. So I don't know where you are. Are you lost?
How did you end up here?
Right. Like, the obvious implications are if a student is choosing to come out to a teacher and not their parents, it's probably because they don't feel safe with their parents. And considering how much anti-trans, anti-queer sentiment is in the US, I think it's perfectly reasonable for kids to be like, this doesn't feel safe yet. I'm going to come out to these people. Also, it might not even be necessarily a safe thing. It could also be like, I'm not totally sure and I want to test this out in this area where it's low consequence, and then maybe bring it to my parents when I'm like more confident about it. That's totally reasonable too. I don't think there's any reason to ever out a student. But anyway, did you have any thoughts on that too?
I just, so I obviously, like, this is a protection for trans and gay kids is one thing that I think is worth mentioning, that gay kids also are at risk for like retaliation from their parents, basically. And yeah, like sometimes you might just need someone to talk it out with. You might need someone to confide in and kind of help you figure out okay, do I want to start using these different pronouns? And maybe asking a teacher or guidance counselor, like, how can I talk to my parents about this? And not having that trusted adult break that trusted relationship by going straight to your parents. It would be like if a kid told you about abuse happening at home, and then the teacher went straight to the parent and was like, so this is what little Johnny told me today about what you've been doing. It's like, you're just going to cause more problems for the kids. So I do think it's interesting that this caused Elon Musk to have like kind of a meltdown. He's like, I'm going to take my companies out of California. And now he's started saying a lot of stuff about his trans kid, which I think previously there hadn't been a ton of commentary about.
Yeah.
So it's been a wild time for sure.
Yeah, I saw him, and it was like an interview with Jordan Peterson or something. I didn't see the video, but I saw like a transcript.
I need to watch it still.
Yeah, where like he basically said that like he was tricked into signing waivers for hormone blockers, and that his kid was corrupted by the woke mind virus, which is so fucking stupid. I don't know his daughter at all. I don't know anything about her. I don't even remember her name. I know I shouldn't even say that because people might go look up the article, and she doesn't deserve that. I feel so bad for her. Really, it is truly terrible that a law that is just like, hey, we think this will protect kids, gets turned into, let me go on an interview to trash talk my daughter. Like,
yeah.
There's some mental problems going on there.
Definitely. Yeah, he's clearly like reacted in the worst way, like the exact way that we hope our parents won't respond, which is like, so she's actually made some comments now on Reds, I think, and maybe a little bit on Twitter as well. Like, he supposedly said to her, like, the last time they spoke on the phone, he was like, "You killed my son, bitch." And it's like, okay, well, thanks for the correct gendering, I guess. But like, yeah, it's the worst direction. And like, I think that I've speculated for a while that that's his motivation behind buying Twitter and going all anti-woke. And I think that he's more or less confirmed that. He's like, the woke mind virus stole my son from me. Therefore, I've decided I'm going to kill the woke mind virus. And yeah, it's like, are you okay, sir? You could have just been normal about this. You could have been totally normal.
It's so wild because, like, my mom expressed early in transition, I mean, back when I was, like, a little teenager, that she did kind of feel like she was, like, losing her son and gaining a daughter. And I know a lot of trans people feel very strongly like that's hurtful. To me, it didn't hurt. I thought, like, that was an honest expression of my mom's emotional state and not, like, a way to invalidate or validate me. It was just her being like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And I think that's totally acceptable to, like, communicate, like, oh, you know, it made me feel this way. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but this is how I feel. But to be like, to your trans daughter, you killed my son is, that's some next tier hateful shit. And
I think there's a difference. Like, if your mom is like, I feel like I'm losing a son, but I'm gaining a daughter. It's different when you are only getting that first part. Like, I'm losing my child and not having that reflection of, but I'm also gaining something. Like, even if and like a lot of parents do end up kind of tied up in expectations of what their kids are going to be like. They have this idea for their future. And so if you're imagining, oh, I'm gonna walk my little girl down the aisle when she gets married, and then she comes out as a trans man, like, obviously that's a loss of future expectations. But yeah, I think that it would be better if a lot more parents started to realize that, like, oh, well, I get to throw my son a bachelor party, like, that you're not losing your kid. You're the only guaranteed way to lose your kid is to not affirm them and to be a huge jerk about it. So congrats, Elon Musk. Your kid has disowned you.
Good for her.
Yep. All right. Let's look at this week's poll question, which is, so we had the big news. Since the last time I was on this show, God, things have changed so much. We had the assassination attempt, and then Biden dropping out of the race, and Kamala has now gotten all of the delegates, I think, that she needs in order to get the nomination. So basically all we're waiting on now is, like, well, who's she going to pick for her vice president running mate? But so we have this open question now of, do we think that Kamala will do a better job than Biden has done at protecting trans rights? Do you have any initial thoughts about that?
I'm going to say that I think my take is probably no. And that's not to say that I think she's going to do nothing or a terrible job, but I imagine it'll be a lot of the same. Like, Biden did a good handful of things that were good for trans people, but it's not a lot, and I expect we'll probably get another handful of things. However, I will say Kamala has been sort of projecting this image of being, like, I think even more pro-labor and pro-union, and maybe a little bit more left of Biden, so maybe we'll get some more progressive legislation out of her. I'm not sure. I suspect it'll be more or less the same, since she's being kind of pitched as, like, Biden plus, I don't. But I mean, if that wins the election and stops Trump from being Trump, then that's great, in my eyes. But I don't know. I think probably no is my suspicion, but there's potential there. What do you think?
I don't think she's gonna be better. Yeah, like, I have the people keep saying, oh, she's not gonna fundamentally change anything, and I'm like, it's like kind of a good thing at this particular stage for her to not fundamentally change anything, because that's kind of what, like, she is the bulwark against the fundamental changes that are being proposed by the Republican Party. So if things stay relatively the same, which is to say that, like, the federal government is suing states that are passing these laws, and, like, who the hell knows when it's gonna go to the Supreme Court within the next year. The issue of trans kids, and the Tennessee drag ban has just been upheld by the Sixth Circuit Appeals Court. So we could see that First Amendment challenge going to the Supreme Court. So, and not all of it is legislative or even within the purview of executive powers. So we're kind of looking at, is there going to be a blue wave in the Senate and House? And then if Kamala wins, is she going to use any of her executive power? Or hell, maybe, I don't even know, like, Biden, are you going to use some of your executive power before you leave office? That would be neat. And then, yeah, fighting things through in the courts and doing these lawsuits. So I'm not expecting that she's going to make any revolutionary changes. I'm not really expecting that things are going to get significantly better for trans people. I'm just kind of banking that she's going to prevent things from getting significantly worse, which at this moment in time, I think that's an acceptable outcome, or a preferable outcome even. Yeah.
For sure. I hope that Kamala is a bit of a step to a more progressive future. I know people were mentioning that if she gets 8 years, she has the potential to pretty much flip the Supreme Court. So that could be like really good. And if a president is, another Democrat or even maybe like a leftist or a progressive comes after her, like AOC or something, which I think that's probably I think Kamala's probably a feasible stepping stone between like an AOC style presidency and who we have now. We could then probably get some real fundamental shifts to the protections that LGBT people need in the government. But honestly, the way she's campaigning for abortion, I feel like, to me, kind of does spill out into trans rights, because she's really coming at this from fundamentally what I think is the best angle, which is bodily autonomy. Like,
yeah, you
have the right to decide what happens to your body. That's between, you and your doctors, and the state, the government should have absolutely nothing to do with that. And I think that does kind of spill over into pro-trans stuff. So I hope that maybe we get something out of it. But yeah, I don't think part of the problem is also that Kamala hasn't really put out a lot with regard to her policy goals yet.
We have yet to see those. Yeah.
Like, we know a lot about her record, and we know a lot about what she stands for as far as values go, but we don't know what her policy, intentions are. And she's also probably going to be picking a rather moderate running mate, because the governors and representatives in the swing states where she really needs to appeal to voters are generally moderates. Like, Mark Kelly is probably like someone who people are really pitching, and he's relatively moderate for the Dems. So yeah, I don't know. It remains to be seen. I'm hopeful, a million times more hopeful than I was with Biden. Like, holy shit, the energy I have. I've been doing nothing but researching all of the relevant issues to this election, and all the important races that are going on for the last week, because I was like, oh, I have fuel in my tank again. I finally feel like the despair is... There's hope in the despair. There's a little seed of hope. So I hope... I hope she comes out strong, but, we'll find out.
That is the biggest difference, is like, oh my gosh, a little tiny spark of hope. What is this? What is this little feeling that we have here? Maybe things will go okay. Maybe. If I dare to dream.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, are we ready to move on to taking some callers? We still have open lines if anybody wants to get in, but we do have a couple callers on the line waiting.
Yeah, I'm down. You pick.
Cool. Well, let's see. Let's take Caitlin from Oregon, uses fair pronouns, would like to talk about how would you allow oneself to be more feminine given the societal pressure. So, Caitlin, hello. How are you today, Caitlin?
I'm amazing now that I'm on the show.
Nice, yeah, absolutely.
I've been watching the videos for a few weeks now, and I just happened to be available when the show was starting. So, yeah, you saw the questions.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, happy to have you. So, lay it out for our viewers. What do you want to talk about today?
So, as a lot of trans femme people, I've struggled with allowing myself to do the things that I want to do. Obviously, gender and femininity is different for everyone, but the things that make me feel feminine, I like doing for myself. And then now it's like in my day-to-day life now, part of why I do it is performative, just for, preventing people from misgendering me and so on. And so it's multi-layered. There's many reasons, of course, but like it's both from like trauma and past teachings, like society, but also now it's just like, sometimes I'm like, I feel like I'm wasting my time, and I'm going to put all this effort into doing stuff that, makes me happy. But I forget, it's a lot of effort up front. And so I forget that it's going to make me happy afterwards. I have to remind myself, no, I will be happy afterwards. I always say, oh, that's too much effort, and people are going to misgender me anyway. So.
You want to jump in, Arden? You are the trans femme here.
Well, I feel like maybe I missed, I might have missed something. Like, what exactly are you asking with regard to that? Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. So I don't know which way to go about talking about it. I want to feel more comfortable allowing myself to feel feminine and do the things that make me feel feminine and put in that effort. Ideally, so that people can, perceive me the way that I perceive myself, but at the very least, just so that I can, be happy. And so sometimes I talk myself out of doing things that I want to do because I'm like, and a lot of this stuff is subconscious too, right? I don't necessarily think of it all the time, but I am now, so talking about it.
Yeah, like, is there like any specific thing you're thinking about doing? Like, is it like growing hair or maybe an activity, like, or just all of it?
I guess all of it. Makeup is a big one because I've been living full time for a long time now. I changed my name legally 12 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I moved to Oregon for many reasons, but one of which was political reasons and LGBT rights.
Yeah.
And I'm working on bottom surgery, but yeah, it's just like shaving also sucks. Yeah, but I mean, with that goes with makeup. So I guess makeup is the biggest thing. Like, especially since I didn't have a lot of experience when I was younger. And so I feel like I don't have really many opportunities to do stuff. Back when I was more involved in the local kink scene, I actually had more opportunities to do that because I'm like, no one's going to care if my makeup looks bad. But
sure.
Now I'm just feel like I'm working all the time and yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, first of all, I mean, I'm sure you might know this, but I always try to take this angle with these kind of issues, but like, you're definitely not alone in that. I think pretty much every trans femme has experienced like wanting to participate in femininity in certain ways, but feeling like, I don't know, there's lifetime of conditioning of like, femininity is bad and you're really a boy, so like you should feel guilty about this in some capacity.
I mean, even they make cis women feel bad for being feminine too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes to makeup, I had an easier time getting into makeup because, I mean, at the time when I was starting transition, makeup YouTube was like the biggest part of YouTube, and now it's like not because scandals galore. But I honestly, that was a big thing for me. I would go get like drugstore makeup, cheap stuff, and try out products and find what worked for me, and just watch videos and try to like follow along, and then like, if there was like something I didn't like about what they were doing, kind of like changing that up and being like, well, I kind of think I might like it more like this, and just experimenting. But I think a big part of it is accepting that, like, when you're trying something new like this, I think you have to accept that you will probably go into public kind of looking a fool when you're trying new things, right? You're always going to be bad at trying a new skill at the first time. So you kind of have to accept that, like, it's okay to not know how to do everything and to like maybe have like bad looking makeup one night. If you were seeing another person out with bad makeup, like, you wouldn't harass them, right? You'd probably like, you might notice it, but you wouldn't like do anything to them. So I think you can extend yourself that same kind of empathy. But I get that it's hard. I think this kind of reminds me of, I've talked on the show before about how when I first transitioned, I would drive to the grocery store and like, I'm a very antisocial person. I have massive social anxiety. I don't go out a lot. I would sit in the grocery store parking lot terrified of going in because I'm like, I'm gonna look like a man, they're gonna think I'm a freak, everyone's gonna make fun of me. And it took me like months to get over that, to where I finally went in, and then eventually I just went in and I realized nobody was looking at me because everyone was too involved with their own life and their own preoccupations and their own baggage and everything. And I was honestly kind of invisible to everyone. And I was like, oh shit. I honestly, like, all of us deserve the right to take up space in society. Trans femmes are allowed to be passing and non-passing and to use all of the public. We have the right to, public decency and access to society just like everyone else does. And so, I get it. It's hard to overcome. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of fear of judgment there, but I think it's important to just kind of remind yourself that fear is irrational, and you have every right to, full enjoyment of society and participation. So it's kind of where I'm starting. Lux, do you have thoughts? Do you want to jump in?
I was going to ask, I guess, do you feel like there is societal pressure on you to perform femininity, or like more of a societal pressure not to perform that, and you're feeling like you are struggling because you want to and you feel like you shouldn't?
No, I don't think there's really societal pressure for me to do either, especially, living in liberal Oregon. But I feel like the pressure is the judgment when I do express myself, and maybe a lot of that's in my head, But and I mean, so also something I want to mention to throw a wrench in this. One of the biggest difficulties for me is especially when I'm at work. I'm just very practical in how I'm a nursing assistant trying to become a nurse. And so I'm wearing scrubs and I'm not wearing anything flattering, and I just put my hair up and I don't really put in the effort, because whenever I have, usually, for me, usually it's just putting my hair up, in a ponytail with a clip, and then I'll have like a little bow or something. And I get, elderly people are 80 plus years old who, I can't really blame them for not being up to date with how the world has changed. And so they'll ask me just like really sometimes rude questions, and I mean, I know what I'm getting into, but that's the kind of reason why I'm struggling sometimes.
I think taking the opportunity, like, especially if you're nursing and that's like a really, like, I understand that it's a very difficult job and it's messy sometimes. And, maybe you don't want to, you're about to go in for a 10 or 12 hour shift, and maybe you don't want to put makeup on beforehand. And then like, that you're going to be tired when you come home and have to clean your face. So like, maybe and this is something that I've started kind of working for myself is, I don't go out much either. Like, I go to the gym and the grocery store, and that's like the extent of me going out unless I have something specific I need to do, like, ooh, it's time to go to the DMV. But like, I want to start dressing for myself. Like, today I'm wearing my black skinny jeans, even though these are not sitting down pants, so they're unbuttoned because they're not comfortable. But like, I painted my nails, and I did that for myself. So maybe, you could explore makeup and get better at it by being like, okay, it's Saturday night. I'm going to pour myself a glass of wine, and I'm going to put on some makeup and just kind of experiment. I'm going to follow a tutorial, and then I'm going to take some selfies, and then I'm going to wipe it off. Like, it doesn't actually have to be
sounds real good.
or anyone else,
Yeah. I mean, because
just finding those like private moments for reclamation.
Yep. Yeah, reclamation is a good word.
Because it's not just it's not like just trans women. Like, it's absolutely like women in general. This is like part of what the Barbie movie goes in on. It's like, we're expected to look amazing, but not be vain, and, put like effort into our appearance, but also not spend so much money on makeup. Like, it's a world of contradictions. So I guess like, hashtag welcome to womanhood or whatever. Like,
oh man. Yeah, and I remember, thankfully I don't have really shame about being trans anymore. I mean, sometimes I wish I weren't, but like, that's just how it is. I've accepted that's who I am. It's better than the alternative, when I was suicidal, of course. But yeah, there's still some baggage that's difficult to get over. Yeah, I like that suggestion.
And I think it's worth mentioning, I was kind of talking about this with my therapist the other day, where she thinks I have like CPTSD or whatever you want to call it, and I think that's probably fair.
Yeah.
Oh boy, is there some trauma?
Pretty common.
I do too. Yep.
Yeah, and I think
I'm on some medication for it. I used to have bad nightmares and panic attacks. So.
I feel the nightmares. That is chronic for me.
Yep.
I think when it comes to trauma like this on a deep level, and I think a lot of trans people, can relate to this, you can do a lot of work on it, and you can heal a lot from it, to the point where you're like, I feel good about my life. I actively want to pursue these things in my life, and I don't want any of that to end. However, that it doesn't mean that you have no triggers or that you have no baggage. Like, I think it's kind of an unreasonable standard to hope that you could, get to a place to where you just aren't being concerned about those things at all. I think that's always going to be, in my view,
slowly get better and better.
Yeah, you
but
just
that
kind of
won't
learn
go
how to
away.
navigate it and cope with the feelings rather than maybe let them consume you. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess I forget a lot of times. I'm still living in the past in the sense that I remember when I came out when I was like 17, about 16 years ago, that like that. I mean, obviously trans people existed then, but the internet wasn't really as much of it wasn't the same as it is now. And I mean, that's how I found out I was trans, was I was Googling stuff. I mean, that's a common experience.
Yeah.
And when I finally put it into words, I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense. I mean, so yeah, back then I didn't have the words to explain it. And so I feel like I'm still kind of stuck now, I guess. And I need to remind myself, people are aware of these topics more now. I have done a lot of learning. I don't need to live in that past anymore. I can just do it.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of power to just kind of like showing up somewhere, you know, and being like, hey, maybe people will judge me or will think my makeup's weird or will think I didn't do my hair right or whatever. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I'm happy with myself and this is how I wanted to dress. So like,
Yep.
don't like it if you
Embrace
don't want to.
being weird. Like,
Yeah.
I embrace being
Yeah.
on the fringes
Oh, yeah.
of society. It's like not a bad place to be. There's a lot of cool people over here.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I've already felt that way about a lot of other things too. I had a thought. I lost it. But in my work, I mean, just being visible is something that I think has been great for me, but also for other people. I mean, I've had a couple of trans patients, one of which like talked to me and said, "Hey, I just want to thank you for existing." And I'm like, that's kind of why I got into this line of work, actually, because of my own trauma. And like, I want to be that kind, accepting person for someone else. So, yeah, hopefully I can do more of that.
Yeah, definitely appreciate you being visible out there. And like, yeah, it's not the easiest line of work. You have to deal with all types of people and,
no
you know,
matter who
they're
you are.
relying on you. Yeah, no matter who you are, you're going to get medical care. So I can't imagine like how much safer I would feel if I'm like, oh man, the nurse who's taking care of me today is trans, or the doctor who I'm seeing is trans. Yeah,
For
it would make a huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I've gotten the whole gambit of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, hon. You're good.
Thanks. I've with some patients, you know, it's still rare, but usually people are just a little ignorant. But I've gotten a couple of patients who have used, you know, slurs and they're ignorant things to talk to, you know, and I just have to. I'm at work, so I'm like, you know, be professional about it and say, oh, I'm a girl, and it is what it is. And if they have any problems, I just have to walk out and tell the nurse, like, hey, this is what happened. But
Yeah, that's really unfortunate.
That's tough.
My sibling is actually also
I've
a
actually
nurse in Oregon.
I've actually done Googling, and I'm like, is discrimination, prejudice a mental illness? And
Yeah.
that was a rabbit hole, let me tell you.
It's like, let me spin it around on you, buddy.
Right,
You're gonna call me mentally ill.
I care a lot about this. Like, I try to really empathize and think about the other side. And I mean, obviously, in the trans debate, there's not really another side. But you know, like, those people have those thoughts, and I'm trying to understand why you think that, and how do I get to you? You know.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah,
and
it's almost
being
more
visible,
forgivable.
I think, is one thing.
Illness.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, and so I try not. It doesn't matter whether it's a mental illness or not. I try to be compassionate, and you know, just because I understand it though doesn't mean that there's an excuse. I always hated that when my parents were like, "Stop giving me excuses." I'm like, it's a reason, not an excuse.
I hate that.
Oh my god, same. My dad.
Story of my life.
All the time.
Gosh.
Beautiful that our generation can commiserate on that weird niche thing that adults did. What the fuck? So random.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Caitlin, do you feel like we've addressed some of your big concerns? We do have a couple other callers, so I want to make sure we give plenty of time.
Yeah, I want you to get to other callers, and if I can always call back another time. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for calling in. We really appreciate you, and we hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thanks. You too. I'm looking forward to the rest of the show.
Bye, Caitlin.
Yep. Bye. Okay. So before we get to our next caller, I want to shout out a couple of things really quick. So number one, if you're in the stream chat and you have not yet hit the like button, please hit the like button. It's quick, it's easy, and it's free, and it immediately helps the show, helps boost us to a broader audience. So if we want to get some more listeners in here to hear the rest of these calls. Also, if you haven't, go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell. Feel free to check out the Patreon because we've got some special Patreon perks over there. And you can also do Super Chat. We just got one Super Chat. Thank you very much. If you do at least $5 on the Super Chat, we will read out your comment at the end of the show. We're not like actively live responding to the chat out of respect for our callers. So please take an opportunity to do those things. And I also want to shout out really quick before we get too much further. This is only one of many amazing shows on the line. So for the following week, I think that Thursdays is our last show of the week. So next week, we have 2 shows on Sunday. There's the Sunday show with Matt Dillahunty and Seth Andrews this week at 2 p.m. And then at 7 p.m., there's the After Dark show with Jimmy Snow and Eric SS. And then we've got Skep Talk on Monday at 6 with Erika Gibbon. Tuesday, we've got Chewed Gum at 6 p.m. with Erika Gibbon and Arden. We'll be back on that one. Wednesday, we have the Thup show. I don't actually know what that stands for. I'm like looking at it in the schedule. The Hang Up. Okay, it's just the Hang Up. Cool. And that'll be Matt Dillahunty and J Mike this week. And then, of course, next week on Thursday, we will come back with Takis at 2 p.m. So make sure you have your notifications on for any of those other shows you want to keep up to date with.
That's right.
Yes. So again, hit the like button. Do it. Okay. Let's look at our next caller. So next in line, we have Hannah from Oklahoma, uses she/they pronouns. Let me bring in Hannah. Hannah, how you doing today?
Hi. Can you guys
Hello.
hear me all right? Sorry.
Oh yeah, you're loud and
Can you
clear.
hear me? Okay. Oh, okay. I'm doing good. Nervous, very nervous, but good. How are you guys doing?
That's okay.
Doing good.
I'm having a good day so far. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So hit us with your question.
I guess I should provide some context, but I just kind of want to talk about like the future of the LGBTQ community, specifically where I live. And but let me provide you some context real quick. So I'm from Oklahoma. I am in high school currently, and you know, you see a lot of stuff online about like people being like, "Oh yeah, I was whatever called this at a restaurant or something like that." But it just being in the Bible Belt, like the Deep South kind of, and also being in the schooling system, just kind of enlightens you to how far we've gone, but also how far we need to go with rights, I think. Like me personally, I am almost double the age of gay marriage being federally legalized, which is just crazy to think about. And it's just sometimes it feels like I said, like we've gone so far, but we still have so far to go. For instance, there was a student who was hate crimed recently. I don't know if it was recently. Next Benedict, who was hate crimed in Oklahoma at Owasso High School, and later, I believe, died. And there's also stories of, like, personally at my school stuff happening. I don't really know anyone that's like male to female or female to male, like trans in that way, but I know like non-binary people. I'm cis, but I'm an ally, and I've heard so many stories of people being like, oh yeah, I was like my friends being like, oh yeah, I was followed home because they were yelling stuff, or I was threatened because of this, or I was called this, and the teacher did not care, or something. And recently there was a law passed in Oklahoma where the Bible by schools can be legally like taught, and teachers that don't teach it can be fired, which is kind of scary to think, because the Bible specifically at my school has been used for justification for people like doing some very scary things against the LGBTQ community. And I don't know, sometimes it just feels like it's just crumbling. Like we've gone for hundreds of years to try and get like gay rights and stuff, and then in places like this in the South, they just crumble as soon as it touches like people personally, or like kids, which are like the future. I don't know, it kind of scares me.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a
No,
long.
go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's like really tough when you're young to deal. Yeah, I'm like trying not to get too emotional about it because like I like when you're saying like you're like double the age of gay marriage being legalized. Like that happened when I was a teenager. Like, and I grew up in this world feeling like that gay and trans like hatred was a thing of the past and things were going to get better. And now I'm 30 and like there's this backlash, right? But as far as the future of trans rights,
people are getting called like groomers and stuff for just wanting to be in like sports or like get medicine.
Yeah, and that's not new. That's definitely not new.
I think obviously
what we're kind of dealing with
going on for a while.
Yeah, what we're dealing with right now, I think, is like it's called a conservative backlash. So it's like this concept that trans and gay people have been getting more rights, and then it's just like a pretty intense backlash to that increase of like liberal progressive ideals. And we are trending in this direction where the people who have been primarily responsible for pushing all of that anti-trans stuff, like frankly, they're going to start dying soon. And we have a lot more young people who are like motivated and involved. Yeah, like listen, this country is being ran by people whose houses were painted with lead paint. Okay, like there's a problem. And I will say like we're still dealing with the whole red state, blue state problem. That's a difficulty that we're going to probably be dealing with for the rest of our lives. I live in Kansas, so I'm not too far from you, and we just passed a bathroom bill. I think that you all have a bathroom bill there too.
Yeah, they got terrible stuff in Kansas too.
Yeah, and I always thought of Kansas as a pretty liberal place. Maybe that's just because I'm from Kansas City, and it's a pretty liberal city. But yeah, once you go out,
I'm like rural Oklahoma, like middle of Oklahoma, rural. So and here there's also a lot of like fears that I think are like misguided. For instance, we had a student be I don't know how to say this, hurt because she was wearing like a tail and ears and stuff, and a lot of people were talking at the time about, I guess someone said there was a school a while ago that like was like putting a litter box or something, but it, like the students were like, I don't know if that actually, I don't think that actually would happen, but we had a student that kind of got into some hot water with other students because they were being like, oh, this is, I don't know how they came to this conclusion, but they were like, oh, this is your fault, and like you're the reason that little kids get hurt and stuff, even though we're only in high school.
I want to kind of like echo some of what Lux said, Hannah, and just like reassure you that this is something that we've been through before and that we've seen before, and that I think sometimes when I talk to older activists, it makes me a little bit more calm because I realize how many times we go through waves of this, like what Lux was talking about, that like conservative backlash where there is a progression of rights and then conservatives attack back and they try to bring things back a little bit, and
they flip the fuck out and try and like remove basic medical care.
It's terrible and it's definitely wrong, and I would hope that, I mean, from my understanding, even when you poll conservatives, they might not like accept trans people or think trans people should exist, but they are against the excessive lawmaking antagonizing trans people. Like, maybe you guys should like fix the roads or fix the economy or fix our schools or do anything that actually affects working class people.
Didn't one of them say like we need the eradication of transgender people in society?
Yeah,
transgenderism. They're hiding behind this euphemism. Yeah, that functionally is what they mean. Yeah, they don't want trans people in public.
Right. I mean, like you can say transgenderism, but then at that point you have to ask how do you eradicate transgenderism without functionally making transgender people's lives intolerable, right? So, it is frustrating, and we are definitely seeing some scary stuff come up, and the internet does not help that. I mean, the internet just fosters these niche communities.
Oh, I'm away from social media. I don't go on like Twitter or Snapchat or like most of those things.
Yeah, good call.
I also want to relate to you, Hannah. I grew up in a rural city and a rural town in northern Vermont, and it was all bigotry. I was the first trans person almost everyone there had ever heard of, like, let alone known personally. Like, they hadn't heard of the concept of being trans when I came out. And it was really difficult to live through. We were talking about trauma earlier. Whew, man, I can tell you I have not fully recovered from that. It's rough.
For me, it was oh,
go ahead.
Sorry. For me, it was coming. I came out in like 5th grade because this guy asked me out, and he was trying to kiss me without my permission, and I was like, no, I'm actually a lesbian. And then ever since then, I've just been like the school lesbian. So.
The school lesbian. Well, I mean, yeah, it sucks being the only like queer representation in a rural town. It's really difficult. But I will say, when I look at my hometown now compared to when I grew up in it, it is massively better for queer people. It's still not good. I'm not going to pretend that queer people are coming out of that unscathed, but there is so much more support there for those people and like actual community that they can engage in that just did not exist when I was growing up. So I will say, while it is stressful looking at the backlash, we are making progress. And I don't want to be naive because bad things happen in the world, right? The good guys don't always win in the real world. But I will say, I am hopeful that the worst is unlikely to happen and that we will continue probably to progress in our lifetimes. I think probably the worst is going to be when climate change absolutely destroys our food security and we all are starving if you don't have a garden. So, you know, that's probably more of a realistic concern than like trans people getting put in camps or something. I know there's some fear because of Project 2025. I honestly don't think even if they get power that that's likely to happen, to be completely honest. But also, I think it's reasonable to be afraid of the worst possible outcome. Say again?
Yeah. I think didn't Trump say like I'm not gonna do the Heritage Foundation's like Project 2025 or something?
So he did, but it's important to note that in his first term, Donald Trump adopted 2/3 of the policy recommendations from the Heritage Foundation, and while other people also recommended his Supreme Court justice nominees, the Heritage Foundation also recommended all of the ones that he picked. So while I don't think Trump is beholden to the Heritage Foundation or Project 2025, I think it would be really naive to think that he is not going to enact many of their suggested policies.
Yeah.
We call that disavowal.
Like personally. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Do you have any tips personally on like how to find and connect to like a community of people that's like other queer people?
If you are getting close to graduating age, it might be worth it to do some college tours and kind of find out what sort of like LGBTQ groups there are on campus. I know like for that age, that's kind of what I would be doing. Do what, Hannah?
I just want to get the fuck out of here. I just want to get the fuck out of Oklahoma, you know?
Sure.
Fair enough. Completely understandable. So yeah, maybe applying for colleges in like more liberal areas. Cause like I know I'm heading to the Pacific Northwest within the next like 6 months. I'm going to move like across the entire country. Yeah. Because I don't want to, like you, I don't want to be in a place that is unsafe. Thank you. Yeah. It's going to be expensive and quite difficult, but you know, I'm not going to say it's easy.
But yeah, I'm so happy for you. That's great. I hope everything with that goes well.
Yeah. And so hopefully since you're at that age where, you know, you might even be able to get like sponsored college trips, or like if your parents are willing to drive you somewhere. So you might start applying and looking into seeing, you know, what are some other places you might want to live. You know, I'm going to be moving to a rural county in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm basically like, I'm bringing my blue vote to a red county to kind of try to keep that area from sliding even further. Lots of people say good things about Minnesota. I know a lot of queer people are moving to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Minnesota is a great state, I think.
Yeah, and they've got great colleges there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Hannah, we do have some other calls we need to get to, so I want to give you a chance to maybe cap off this call or anything else you want to add.
Just like, thank you so much for talking to me. I really do look up to you guys. I've been listening to you for a while, and you've really helped me emotionally and personally. And I don't know where I'd be without the line sometimes, because I really love your call shows. So thank you so much for speaking with me. I really appreciate all the stuff you do for the community.
Thank you.
No worries, Hannah.
That's really sweet. You have a lovely day.
We're gonna make it. Things are gonna get better. I promise.
Have an amazing day. Have an amazing day, and have a good move. Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Okay.
Having a
It is
teenager
so
say
hard.
thank you for all you do makes me want to cry. I'm like, hold it together.
I already was like, I want to cry at the beginning of that call.
I
Like,
know.
I just feel so bad for them. Like, it's not right that this is the world that they have to live in. Like, whether they're trans or queer or whatever. Like, yeah, just keep it together. Oh my gosh. So before we take our next caller, just a reminder, everybody, if you do a $5 super chat, we will read those out at the end. And please hit the like button. It's quick, it's easy, it's free. It immediately helps the show. We very much appreciate it. You can also check out links in the description to find our Patreon, get some special perks, get your name read out in the credits, or like listed out in the credits, I guess. Thank you everybody for watching and for hanging out with us. We are going to look at our next caller. Let's bring on Noah, who uses any all pronouns from Indiana. And Noah, hello. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm okay. Can you hear me just fine?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I know you guys are short on time, and I'll try to keep it in a nutshell. Also, two of my favorite
No worries.
trans creators.
We love to hear it.
I just, yeah, I know. Just insert random hand signal. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyways, I guess it's a matter of personal guilt. I'll try to keep the story short. I have this friend who is not really compatible as a friend in our community. I mean, my personal friend community, who has been there for a long time. We all come from very churchy backgrounds, and we're all in our 30s, and he has simply become, how do I say, a liability. And he has been timed out before because of his anti-queer sentiments. I know for a fact that I do sympathize with him because I know he has had a level of childhood trauma from abuse that he endured at a young age. And again, we've known him for forever, and just recently I've had to cut him off entirely because he just started doing it randomly, contacting friends, and he contacted one of my friends who she is cis, and she does have a trans sister, and he just attacked her, basically saying that he's sorry that her sister is voluntarily being mutilated, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of horrible, and I blew up on him. I waited a few days. I tried to cool down, and eventually I just cut him off and more or less used my influence to just cut him off from the community. And I feel very bad about it because I have always tried to think the best of this person, and, give them a chance to recover, give them a chance to talk things out, hear whatever he had to say. And it just feels, I don't know, maybe it's martyrdom complex from youth, but it feels like I didn't really have a choice if he was going to start hurting people that were just adjacent for no reason.
I feel like there's a lot of different ways that you can go with that. Like as somebody in like the privileged position, how do you deal with someone who's being hateful in your community? And like, you can know that someone is coming at their bigotry from a place of trauma. Like J.K. Rowling claims to be coming at her bigotry from a place of trauma. She's like, I was abused by my husband, therefore trans women are men. And like, okay, that's a bit of a non sequitur, but all right. It's like, we can understand the reasons for someone's behavior. And like, this kind of is like, from my background, having been in therapy for a long time, but like, you can understand someone's behavior and you can say, it makes perfect sense why you behave the way that you behave. And that is not acceptable. And I will not accept being like spoken to that way or treated that way. And for someone to be, attacking someone, or even just a sibling of a trans person that right? Like, we have to draw lines in the sand, and you can say, hey, I'm trying to have a compassionate reaction to this at first. I'm trying to help you understand at first. And then with some people, that just isn't effective. It's like, one of the things about the process of deconversion is that sometimes you need different things at different points in your journey. And sometimes a person needs to be told that they're being a huge asshole and that you're not going to talk to them anymore. And then for you to tell everyone like, by the way, this person's a huge asshole and we shouldn't affiliate with them. Like, social ostracization is actually a hugely powerful motivator for change. And like when parents get alienated from their kids, sometimes it takes a couple years of dealing with the pain of that alienation for them to come back around and be like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and accept my gay kid or my trans kid. And it may be the case that this friend of yours isn't going to change their mind about, being a jerk to trans people. But I think at a certain point we have to recognize that there's only so much energy we have to give to that, and that telling someone to go away is sometimes like a really powerful motivator for them.
Yeah. I am all for, and granted, I feel like maybe there's something wrong with me, because when I talk to other people about this, they think it's a little harsh, but I am all for cutting people off for things like that. Like,
True.
I literally have no problem being like, oh, we were friends for a long time, but now I found out you believe or think this. Okay, bye. Like, I have no tolerance for that kind of, bigotry and hatred. There's nothing in me to. I appreciate what Lux is saying. Like, maybe try once, give them a shot, and hope that they come around. But then, if they don't, like, at what point do you draw the line? For me, it's pretty fast. I draw the line. Like, I recently had a cousin who I hadn't seen in over a decade, for reasons that are nobody else's business. But he came out in support of Trump, and I was like, wow, this is really disappointing. I was really looking forward to seeing you again when I came home next month, but you've clearly decided that, my well-being and the well-being of every pregnant person is a acceptable cost for, what you think is a better economy, but which economists would disagree with you on. I don't know. Even for more trivial things, I think it's okay to cut people off if you don't want those people in your life. Like, I don't know. It's not your responsibility to be everyone's, lifeline. Like, you get to decide.
Yeah, like I said, martyrdom complex, savior complex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's hard to get rid of.
Totally. Yeah, I think for me, it's like, I think it's the atheism in me where I'm like, listen, motherfuckers, I have one life that I know I get to live. One.
YOLO.
And I'll be damned if I'm gonna let this dumb shit fucking interfere with my ability to live a happy, fulfilled, secure life where my friend group feels like a safe place to go. And I don't know. I just can't. I totally understand what you're talking about with the martyrdom thing. I don't know. I say, fuck it. Cut him off with like a fucking butcher's knife. Let him fall down to the sharks below. Not your problem anymore if he's going to be like that, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just needed the encouragement because I feel guilty still. But
don't feel guilty. You didn't do anything wrong. Like this other person did something wrong and you responded in a completely proportionate manner to that. So like, yeah, sometimes you just need somebody to tell you like, nope, that was the right call. That's what I would have done. Or like, that was a reasonable reaction at the very minimum.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
That's really just what I wanted to bring up, and I will let you guys go because you're busy.
Well, your call.
If only I had more than one like to give to your stream.
You're fine.
That's okay.
Thank you so much for giving even a like. We really appreciate it, Noah, and I hope you are able to like let yourself relax about this decision because I genuinely do think you did the right thing, and you're totally fine.
Okay, thank you very much.
No worries.
We appreciate you, Noah.
Have a great day.
Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.
We're
doing therapy today.
I know. I think we maybe have time for one more call. I think we can probably do one more normal length call. I mean, if it's really short, maybe we can try to squeeze in another one. But so I don't know. Out of the people you have here, 13-1 sounds like it could be really interesting. But I don't know. 12-5 is also interesting.
Yeah.
I'll let you pick whatever you want.
Okay. Okay, so we have time for one more call. Let's go with Giddy from Utah. Apologies to the other callers. We have a short show today. But that is cool. We'll be here next week. I'll be here next week. Yeah. Anyway, and so you can call back and get more of Luxander next week. So yes, we're going with Giddy, he, him pronouns from Utah. Hello, Giddy.
Hi, yeah, you picked me. Hi.
Yeah, hi. How you doing today?
Good so far.
Cool. Well, it seems like you have a really interesting question, so lay it on us today.
Yeah, I guess I have a question about gender care, and basically, in ye olden days, foot bindings used to be a mark of like feminine beauty, and I guess also for the same thing. Synthol use. Are you aware of synthol, by the way? I'm not sure.
I have not heard of it.
Me neither.
Oh, it's basically a site enhancement oil that bodybuilders use, that some men use to inflate the appearance of their muscles. But extreme synthol use can make it look like your biceps have like a gallon of oil underneath them, because they essentially do. Anyway.
Gross.
So yeah, it's in that sense, it's bolstering the appearance of muscles and more musculature, more masculine. Essentially, it's gender care, but in my head, my question would be that such cases of gender care, they seem extreme to me, but by that same token, other things like breast augmentations, reassignment surgeries, whatever that's called, that doesn't seem extreme to me. That seems like a good thing, but like foot bindings and like synthol abuse, just it crosses a line that I'm not that I'm not comfortable with. So my question would be like, I don't know why it crosses that line when it's just all gender care. But like, so my question would be like, when is it gender care, and when is it something to be careful of?
I mean, so I think something worth noting, some of my first thoughts off the bat are, you know, if something has a demonstrated like harmful effect, I think I would support us like regulating that or banning it or whatever is like the best evidence-based approach to make sure people are being okay, even if it could be ostensibly gender care, like if it's hurting people, like that's not acceptable in my eyes. But I also would say kind of it opposite to that I generally kind of feel like bodily autonomy is really important to me, and if people want to like do weird shit to their body that I don't necessarily understand, I don't really care. Like if that's what makes you happy, like cool, do it. Like live your life. Like whatever gives you meaning in this life, I think you should roll with it, you know? Where the line becomes gender care is probably a little bit subjective. I think sometimes people will like compare things that people do for body dysmorphia to like gender care because they are kind of like feminizing treatments or something. But it's also important to note that like when trans people get gender affirming care, usually that resolves like the, you know, the dysphoria or euphoria that they're searching for. It gives them like a resolution to where like they don't need to seek more. Whereas when people have like body dysmorphia or something and they get a nose job, generally they'll not be happy with the nose job, or they'll start wanting other areas treated. The body dysmorphia will like move. It's like a internally sourced thing. Or rather, maybe it's better to think of it as an externally sourced thing because you're thinking about people's evaluations of your body. And that's always, people are always going to have those judgments, right? And that's why we see when people with body dysmorphia get like surgical treatments or medical treatments to alter their body, generally it doesn't resolve the issue. Generally that doesn't make them happier. It's a persistent problem. But even then, I don't know, if they have the money and they want to do it, I don't know. It's a weird like ethical line where we halt people's bodily autonomy because potentially it could be more good than harm for them. But I guess I'm derailing from where the line is for gender care. But I don't know. I think this thing it's a little bit messy. I mean, like we have some things we are really confident about, like the impacts of like bottom surgery and top surgery and like facial feminization surgery. But then there's other things that we don't have as much evidence for. Like I know there's surgeries where you can get like a piece of your clavicle removed to make like your shoulder shorter, and from my understanding that's like not a really well established procedure and can be like really dangerous and can stop you from having mobility in your arms. And yeah, so I don't know exactly where the line is. Lux, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean gender affirming care is pretty broad as a category. Things like foot binding are kind of like a culturally imposed thing. It's not necessarily something people choose for themselves. It's like something that moms start to do to their girls when they're like 6 years old, and it can cause them like issues walking around. So like, yeah, looking at the difference between what are people seeking for themselves versus what are people having done to them. Like I think that's one area where it's like I don't care if it's gender affirming, or like if it makes you have appropriate gendered features for your society. Like you don't get to do that to people in the same way that I am against circumcision of infants. Like I don't think that you should, and I'm also against piercing the ears of infants. Like I don't think that you should make those decisions for children. Mm-hmm. So and like, yeah, with like synth oil, like people in the chat are saying that like you inject it into your body and then it gives you a superficial appearance of like enlarged muscles. And like, okay, if we have a regulatory body that is going to be able to look at that and be like, this is basically poison, you shouldn't do it, then it shouldn't be commercially available, right? Like I think that there is a place for a regulatory body to say this product shouldn't be available for people to use generally. But if the product is not harmful or doesn't have negative health effects, which I'm not making a claim whether it does or not, yeah, like I guess the sort of question is like, do people have the right to harm themselves? And like I think that like I'm kind of on board with Arden here. You know, people have the right to drink alcohol 7 days a week. You know, like broadly speaking, people have the right to do things that aren't going to affect other people. You know, like part of the reason why you're required to wear your seatbelt is so that your body doesn't get ejected from the vehicle and then cause property damage to someone else or have to be cleaned up by someone else. So yeah, we can say, yes, this thing is gender affirming and look at then whether it's harmful or not in a way that is like within the way that we already regulate stuff, you know, like, and then like, yeah, making that consideration of whether it's only affecting you, whether it's something you're imposing on someone else. Yeah, and I can understand like the feeling of discomfort around it, because I do think that there are a lot of extreme procedures kind of taking the conversation in a slightly different direction. Like, there are those people who get their tongue split, and there are people who have their teeth filed or removed, and people who get tattoos on their eyeballs, even though that is very problematic for people's eyesight sometimes. And we might feel like a reflexive kind of discomfort with that. But again, it's like, is this bad for society? And even if you're making the argument that it's bad for society, like, you would have to pretty thoroughly justify that it is affecting other people too much. Like, yeah, you should be able to get weird shit done to your own body, even if it could kill you. We do elective surgeries all the time. You could technically die during a breast augmentation, and cis women get those all the time. But anytime you go under general anesthesia, you're taking that risk, right? So, yeah, I don't know. What do you think of that wall of text we just gave you, Giddy?
I am processing it. So it'll take a couple hours. But so
That's
first
cool.
impression, like, that was great. Where were you a week ago when I was freaking out about this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
that's
tough.
everything. Yeah, good job.
Cool.
Yeah, we super appreciate your call. If you don't have any additional questions, I think that we can go ahead and wrap it. If you want to call back, I will be here next week. We can continue the conversation. I don't think we're going to have a hard stop next week. We'll see. But we have to get out of here in like 25 minutes today. So, we really appreciate you. Always great to have an opportunity to talk about body modification.
Okay. In that case, thank you. Have fun.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, body modification
Time for some
is
super
so
chats.
interesting. I love the,
Oh, God,
the
yeah.
split tongue thing. I think is really fucking cool. I don't know if is it dangerous or bad for your like.
It's not dangerous, but it's apparently quite painful to recover. Yeah,
Wow.
it's yeah.
Oh, 'cause
like
you
a
probably
week of
move
you
your
can't talk.
tongue. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
so eating, yeah, you got to do like a liquid diet. You can't talk. It's really cool, but yes, it is like one of the most difficult things to recover from as far as body modification, as far as I've heard people who've had it done.
Yeah, it makes me think of a little bit of gender crits have this like flawed understanding of transhumanism, rather than being like the, you know, us technology elevating us to the position of godhood or whatever. They think it's like basically when we allow people to do like body modification to the extreme. But like, honestly, I'm looking forward to that future, like where what you want a cybernetically enhanced fucking body that lets you jump 20 feet in the air. Like, cool. If we can do that, like, why not?
Let's go.
Like, if I can have like a fucking robotic tail implanted, like a what's the word? Prehensile tail. I can like drink my cup while I've got my hands clacking on the keys over here. Like, I'm so in. Like, I want the cybernetically enhanced future. Yeah, it is interesting where it becomes specifically for gender, and there are definitely some arguments for like how that applies to cis people, but I don't know if it's a clean line. I think it's going to be a little bit subjective.
Yeah, a little bit subjective, a little bit blurry, but fascinating endlessly.
Yes. All right.
Right.
Yeah, so we're gonna move on to super chats. I realize it's early, but I've got a Deadpool and Wolverine to go see because I don't want to hear fucking spoilers, and it looks like a really good movie, so I'm gonna go. The only tickets that were available are $420. Blaze it. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's. Do you want to go first?
Sure. Our first super chat of today. Thank you so much, Megan Marie, for your 1999. Megan says, I'm trying to understand more about non-binary pronouns. What is the difference between they, them, and it, its? I don't usually think of the pronoun it being used for people. Just want to understand it more. We're not going to go into a huge amount of detail here at the end of the show. I did just put a video up on my channel if you want to see like a 20-minute conversation about it. But briefly, it's vibes. It's just a preference thing. It's like if you're like a trans feminine person, like, do you prefer she, her pronouns or they, them pronouns or Faye, fair pronouns? Like, it's just vibes at the end of the day.
Right. I forget the caller's name, but when Faye was here earlier, it sounded like Faye was
Caitlin.
saying like, there were, I believe, sorry, I'm not in the grammatical habit of using that pronoun, so every time my brain is like, wait, is this right? So I think Faye even said that they're a woman, and then also uses Faye fair pronouns. So like it definitely is just kind of like vibes, whatever. We had a cis person, or they claim to be cis. Hannah was cis, but she uses she they. You know, like pronouns aren't necessarily gender.
Yeah, typically we don't use it for people, but you know, some of us are fucking too cool. I don't know, like whatever. Some of us don't totally vibe with being people. I don't know. Let's whatever.
$5 a monkey at typewriter. Conservative backlash should be called backfash. Thanks for getting me through the workday. Be gay, do crime, or be straight and help with the crime. Right on. Thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if conservatives are always backfash, but definitely right now, they are hardcore on that. So.
$10 from Nikki D. Thank you very much. Nikki says, thank you for the show. My day is better with Arden and Luxander. Smiley face. Our day is better with you here. Thank you.
I'm glad we had fun. It's nice doing a short show. We still got quite a few calls, and they were like good and interesting calls. So I'm glad.
Sometimes we need a no spicy day every once in a while. Just no more Matthew. I hung up on him, and I think it got him really upset. So he didn't even call back this week.
Right. Yeah. No. Well, you know, I had a whole thing that I was gonna get into, but I didn't have time to really prepare it properly. But anyway, maybe another time I'll get to do that with Matthew. £5 from. Wait, is this me? Yeah, from £5 from Les Watts. Yeah. Love you guys. I'm not trans, but at the ripe old age of 63, I realize I'm pretty gender fluid. I learned so much from you. Oh, that's awesome. Never too late.
Gender fluid people are cool. Yeah. £5 from Sean Isherwood says, here's a deep but simply stated theorem. Every finite group of odd order is solvable. Groups are all about symmetry. My research focuses on them. I feel like if I took a little bit more than 5 seconds, I could understand that better, but my no thoughts head empty moment right now that I'm having.
Yeah, what? Every finite group of odd order is solvable. See, I don't know what odd order means in this context.
And what does solvable mean in this context?
Groups are all about symmetry. I have no idea. Well, Sean, I'm glad you're the one that's on that, because you understand what those words mean, and neither of us do at all.
Shout out, thanks.
$20 from Brett J. Some common currency for some uncommon hosts. Thank you so much. Yeah, none of that fake, not American currency. There we go.
$5 from Pibblepunk, half dog, half canine. Excellent name. Says, right-wing affiliated companies sell tons of merch saying, shoot your local. Right-wing figures want to label all trans people as predators. 2 + 2 =? Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty clear writing on the wall that we've been seeing for a while, that if you associate trans people as a whole as being child predators, and then at the same token, you're trying to pass laws in, like, Florida, they were trying to pass laws that would require, like, less of a, less jury cohesion, whatever. Like, they did not need a full jury to sign off on the death penalty for child sex assault or whatever. Like, yes, that is kind of the writing on the wall. Project 2025 on page 5, it equates trans people with pornography, and then says that pornography needs to be illegal and that, like, its distribution needs to be punishable with jail time. So yes, I think there is a pretty clear criminalization happening there.
Yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking. I will say I'm even concerned sometimes about, like, the future of TACUS if those kind of laws go through. Like, if they specifically, I believe, say the propagation of transgender ideology is what is pornography, which is, like, a confusing, weird definition. So it's like, so this would be pornographic, like...
Yeah, do we have to tick the little adult content only thing, or is this going to be against TOS period and we can't do the show at all? You know, like, there's some pretty serious concerns.
Yeah, I will say again, I don't think that we're going to go to the worst possible case scenario there right away, if it happens at all. But I also would say I think it's naive to assume that it's not possible, because holy shit, yeah, the things that the just the state of the rhetoric is so horrible that I deeply understand people's concerns and fears of it going that far.
And this is the pathway that it would take. It would be criminalization. It would be anti-drag bans, that type of thing. And so people would end up not so much in camps per se, but certainly in prison is kind of the more likely way for that to go down. 5 pounds from Sean Isherwood says 4.
Right on.
Thank you.
Same, honestly.
Hard same.
We got $4.99 from 7 Lions. Luxander has said repeatedly it's not voting. Please vote. Encourage reviewers to vote. Apathy is deadly. Now is not the time to sit on the sidelines. I think Lux said last week that, or did I hear? I thought I heard you say that you're now excited.
Every single time I've talked about this, I've said I'm going to vote. I said I was not going to vote for Biden because I live in Kansas and it literally does not matter. But I always say I'm going to vote down ballot, and I encourage my viewers to vote, especially locally. But I have repeatedly said, if you live in a purple state or a blue state, you should vote for Biden to affirm that he is going to win. It just so happens that I am, let's say, the privileged position of living in a gerrymandered to hell red state where I have voted for the Democratic president 3 times, and it has literally never made a difference. But I take strong issue with the idea that I said that I wasn't going to vote, because I am very strongly affirmed that I think it's important to vote, especially locally. But yes, I will now vote for Kamala, even though it still doesn't matter. Still doesn't matter. I still live in Kansas. So my vote for Democratic president is not going to make any difference, but I am willing to vote for Kamala in a way that I was not willing to vote for Biden. So,
yeah, we don't need to hash out everything. I'm always so tempted to jump in because my brain. But even to what extent Luxander still doesn't necessarily agree with Josie or I on the matter. Josie and I are here preaching that all the time, so I think we're pretty strongly.
You get more than enough balance.
Yeah, you're right. No need to harass Luxander over this, you guys.
129 SEK from S Martique says, "You're awesome, great show." Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. And then the last super chat right now is $5 from Domestic. Hello, Arden. I hope this is going to be okay. How is your GoFundMe going? I haven't checked it in a couple days. It's kind of plateaued a little bit. It's slowed down, but that's fair. I'm also not pushing it as much, mostly because I kind of got into a state of panic when we were looking at Trump seeming like a likely victor, and it was well, okay, now I'm going to kind of put all my plans on hold because I don't know if this is even if I were to schedule the date today, I wouldn't be able to get it for a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Those wait times.
Yeah, and so I kind of haven't pushed it because I've been a little anxious about the viability of it happening at all. Now I'm feeling more hopeful, but I don't know. Things are in a position right now where it's just I'm gonna have to go get my passport fixed before I can even schedule a date. There's hurdles to jump through, and I'm dragging my feet a little, but I mean, it's going fine. I've been really grateful to everyone who sent it. I know Min, who is maybe doesn't always agree with us all the time, but is in chat regularly, donates once a month to my GoFundMe, which is really nice. There's a lot of you guys who are really cool and trying to be really helpful, which I appreciate. I'd really like to get it done because I'm ready. It's time. I'm in the stage of my trend. There was a lot of time where I was anxious and not sure if I wanted it at all or if it was right for me. And now I'm at the stage where I've been I really, really, really want this to happen, but it just feels like it is forever out of reach, which sucks, but it'll happen eventually. It's just, I don't like the way most doctors in the US do the surgery, and that's pretty much the only way it would be feasible to get it in a reasonable timeline is doing it in the US. But I really have strong reservations about that. But anyway, thank you, Domestic. That was the last super chat. All right. I'm gonna wrap up. I've got a movie to go see. Lux, what do you got going on? You doing any streams or anything today?
I am streaming on Sunday. And we're going to be covering some of the stuff that I didn't cover last night because I ended up hanging out in Dead Domain's charity stream the entire time I was normally going to be doing my show. I also have a GoFundMe going right now, but it's just for me to move across the country, and some insane person donated like literally half of the goal yesterday. So it's yeah. So it's actually pretty close to hitting the first marker, and then there's like a potential stretch goal moment. But yeah, so I'm excited that I get to move in this winter time. It's going to be a lot of planning and stuff. We just got a last minute super chat.
Oh, yep. 1999 from Jamnik. My first atheist event was Free Flow in 2022. I also have some social anxiety, especially when I don't know anyone. After recognizing at the Arden Hart, I got guts up to say hi. Thank you for being awesome. Takas and Line Pam Rock. I wish I remembered who you were, Jamnik, because honestly, sometimes at those events, because everyone wants to talk to Matt,
blurs together.
It all blurs together, and I'm always like the waiting room for Matt. Like, people talk to me while they're like nervously waiting to butt in on his conversations and talk to him. So yeah, but thank you so much for attending these events and for supporting us on the line. I really appreciate it. Okay.
Yes.
Let's roll this outro here. Oh, there we go. There's the music.
Look at all these amazing people, the patrons.
Yeah, if you would like to get your name on there or get access to like exclusive content like our podcast, you should go support us over at patreon.com/calltheline. It's where all
and
the
the
good
Discord.
That's right. Get in on all that good stuff. Luxander will be back here next
longer.
week.
I will be here next week.
See you guys later.